and welcome to the Fertility Conversations podcast. The goal of this podcast is to create more awareness about infertility and to provide support to people trying to conceive. Thank you for listening today, and we hope you will be encouraged. And now, here is your host, Ola.
Welcome to another episode of Fertility Conversations. Today we're joined by a lovely guest, Simbi Animashaun. She is the author of the newly released book, The Power of Healing. She joins us from the United States and will be sharing her fertility journey with us. So welcome, Simbi, and thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Ola. Thank you for having me.
Yay, thanks for being here. So we usually start off by saying, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Simbi Animashaun. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. I have 3 kids who are my rainbow babies. They are ages 4, which is my son. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I have a 1-year-old son as well. So again, those are my 3 rainbow babies after the storm. So I also I'm a published author. So I published my book, which is The Power of Healing, that was published last year, which is my first year anniversary. June 1st was my first year anniversary. And in that book, which is why I'm an advocate today, I'm just trying to raise awareness for other women that have experienced pregnancy and infant loss. So my book details my challenges with my miscarriages and my journey towards becoming a mom. So my major role, or my major title today, is just being a mom. I'm also a maternal health advocate. So I advocate for other women. And I also recently just became a certified bereavement doula. So I wear many, yes. So I wear many hats. But my major passion is just advocating for other women that have experienced the same challenges that I have with, losing their babies, and just trying to break the silence, by telling my story.
Thank you so much. And we love all your many hats that you wear. All amazing. Thank you. So sorry about your losses. And I guess it would be a good time to maybe share a little bit more about your fertility journey, as much or as little as you'd like to share.
Yeah, I can discuss you said my journey with my pregnancy.
Your journey to parenthood. Yeah.
Oh, my journey to parenthood. Yeah. So I first found out that I was pregnant on January 1st, 2014. So which is almost about 10 years ago. So that was my first pregnancy. I was a healthy 30-year-old woman who had just pretty much finished my master's degree, and I was teaching. I was a teacher during that time, teaching middle school English in Atlanta, Georgia, when I found out I was pregnant. So I was pretty much well-rounded, well-established in life. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that was missing was a family. So I was really excited to find out that I was pregnant on January 1st. And then, a couple weeks later, I started cramping and I started spotting. It wasn't heavy bleeding, but it was just spotting here and there. And, not being educated about pregnancy, because again, it was my first pregnancy, and not really having a tribe or having, family or friends that I could confide in. I ended up setting up an appointment with my gynecologist during that time, because I was scared. I didn't really know what was going on, and I just wanted to make sure that the baby was fine. So when I went to my appointment, my gynecologist conducted an ultrasound, and doing an ultrasound, she told me that there was no heartbeat. However, she told me, don't worry. She said, it's still early in your pregnancy, for a heartbeat to form. So don't worry, just come back in a couple weeks and we'll do another ultrasound to see if there's a heartbeat for the baby. So she sent me home. She discharged me. She sent me home that particular day. And maybe like 2 weeks later, I was teaching my students, and I, again, started cramping, and I looked down And now I'm starting to see heavy amounts of blood. And I'm like, okay, again, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what a miscarriage was. I didn't really understand what I was going through. But I just know that it was so much blood that was being released, that I was releasing, that I just started to panic. So luckily my students were not aware of what was going on. So I ended up running out my classroom and, going to my car and driving myself to the emergency room. And there, from the emergency room, that's another experience that, a lot of women don't talk about, because a lot of times the emergency room, they're not really educated enough to deal with women who experience pregnancy loss. But long story short, they told me that, I was having a miscarriage. So I started to I was releasing blood clots, and they actually did like a bloody ultrasound to show me that there was no heartbeat. So really traumatizing. That first pregnancy, yeah, that was a really traumatizing time for me. So that was my first miscarriage experience. And from there, I would go on to experience 3 more miscarriages without no education, without no reason why I was, having these miscarriages. And again, like I explained earlier, I was a healthy 30-year-old woman. I didn't smoke. I rarely had any alcohol or, did anything that would harm my body. So I really was confused about why I was experiencing these miscarriages. And I started to beat myself up because, again, the doctors were not telling me anything. And also during that time, I experienced a brain hemorrhage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I experienced a brain hemorrhage, and that was during my second miscarriage. So when I found out I was pregnant again, maybe 6 or 7 months later, and it's not that I was trying, but of course, my significant other and I, we were passionate about starting a family, but we did want to wait, but things happened. So I ended up pregnant again in November of 2014. And that's when I found out I was pregnant, when I ended up at the emergency room again. But this time, not that I was having a miscarriage, but I was having the brain hemorrhage. So having the brain hemorrhage, when I went to the emergency room, they discharged me again, even though I had just had a stroke. Yeah, even though I had just had a stroke, they discharged me because the only thing they did was test my urine to see that I was pregnant. So they tested my urine, and that's it. That's all they did. They tested my urine, and once the test came back positive, they said, well, you're here, you're experiencing the things that you're experiencing, which was signs of a stroke. I had the worst headache in my life. My vision was blurred. I was unable to communicate. So my significant other had to communicate to the doctors what was going on with me. So when they discharged me that I was pregnant, again, confused. This is what pregnancy is. So I'm having the worst experiences, even getting pregnant or, feeling like I'm not good enough. Like, what's going on with me? Yeah. So eventually I found out that I had a stroke. So I was at home maybe 2 weeks at the most in the bed on bed rest because I couldn't walk. Thinking that I was just pregnant, like, worse headache and all these other symptoms of a stroke, thinking that I was just pregnant. So that was my second miscarriage. And like I said, I had a total of 4. So within the next year or so, I will have 2 more.
Wow.
Yeah,
I would have 2
more. Yeah, so I had a total of 4 miscarriages.
I'm so sorry for all your losses.
Thank you, Ola.
But what a testimony. The fact that, you were sent back home when you just had a stroke and you were at home for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of things could have gone wrong in that time.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's why I'm here, Ola. That's why I'm advocating, for other mothers and birth givers, because I have, I have multiple testimonies to share with other people to let them know that they're not alone. And it it upsets me, this to this day, to know that I was discharged twice,
Exactly.
with these serious conditions, and I could have died. I could have died. So I'm just very happy, to be here to even share my story with you and with others.
Yes. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story. Right, because this is all things that are highly stigmatized. No one speaks about it. And you
Right.
mentioned oftentimes that you're not even aware, you didn't know what a pregnancy was like, you didn't know what a miscarriage was like, because people just don't speak about those things,
They
right?
don't.
Because
They
yeah,
don't.
which is why it actually makes it even harder for other people, because you haven't heard anyone speaking about it, and then you start to blame yourself. Like, why are you going through all of this when nobody else seems to be
Right.
having similar
Because
experiences?
you're right. Right. And it saddens me that, within, my community of other Black, mothers and birth givers, that we're not taken seriously. So as I tell the story today to you, Ola, and just to know that, again, they discharged me from the emergency room after I just had a stroke, to tell me that I was just pregnant. Like, those symptoms were because of pregnancy. So that's why it's just very important that I'm here and that I'm advocating for other mothers and birth givers in my community.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you for doing that, because we definitely need more people speaking out as well, and ensuring that this doesn't happen to somebody else.
Right.
Again, you're very fortunate for being here, um, given the severity of that situation, and you've been sent back home.
Right.
And, knowing that is such a highly stigmatized topic, and you choosing to then speak about it, what made you want to do that?
What made me want to do it, just be an advocate for other mothers and birth givers. So once I had my miscarriages, I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, so I decided to move back to home, which was Atlanta, Georgia. And that probably was the best decision that I had made, during that time, because it was just the situation that I was in was very stressful. So I found a job, I found, a new home, and, I was able to be surrounded by family and friends. And from there, I decided to do my own research. I decided to do my own research and get a better understanding of what had just happened to me, within those couple of years. Like, why did I have these miscarriages? Why did I have a stroke? Again, I still had not been educated about what I had gone through, because it was just so much going on at one time. So because I was able to release the situation that I was in, I was able to focus on Simbi. So once I focused on Simbi, I was able to strengthen my faith with God again. I was able to connect with family and friends who I had been separated from. And one of the steps that I took was going to see a reproductive specialist. And that was probably the best thing that I did during that time, because she was able to really investigate and see what was going on with me. So during that time, we discovered that I had PCOS as well.
Wow.
And I was pre-diabetic. So those two things were interfering with me being able to actually carry my kids, which I didn't know. And I also found out I had fibroids. So it was a lot that
was a lot. Yeah.
I thought I was healthy. I thought nothing was wrong with me, but it was. So the reproductive specialist was extremely helpful in me just turning my life around health-wise. So she ended up prescribing me metformin, which helped, with my sugar levels. And a year later, I found out I was pregnant, and it was a scary time, but it was also a joyous time. Like, I was very happy, because it was a year later. I believe it was a year later, after I had just moved back from Atlanta, to find out I was pregnant again, and to have her a part of my journey, she was just a really nice older lady, very nice, very confident, and very supportive. So anytime I had any issues, where I had a few times I was spotting, she reassured me that everything was fine. And I knew it was different because I knew this journey was different because when I went to like my third ultrasound appointment, I heard a heartbeat. So that was my first time ever hearing a heartbeat. And I knew, like I said, I knew that this was different. I knew that God was changing things around for me. And, he was ready for me to be a mom.
Yeah.
He was ready for me to be a mom. So I had my son on January 18th, 2018. And I had 2 more babies, like I had mentioned. I had them, and people joke and say, you had these kids back to back. But again, it's my journey, it's my story.
Exactly.
It's my testimony. So it doesn't matter that I've had kids back to back. Like I have a story to tell. And my kids are my success story.
Yes.
So to know that other women like myself are experiencing the same thing, and to talk to friends and finally be able to publicly share my story without feeling embarrassed or feeling less than a woman, or even feeling sorry for myself. I'm telling my story to let other people know that God is real, that God answers prayers, that no matter what you're going through, things can change. Through faith, God tells us not to worry, to just be still and wait on Him. And I just want other women to know that the same can happen for them. So I'm here again, like I said, I'm just here to share my story and to advocate for other mothers and birth givers. That's my passion.
So much.
That's my passion now, and that's my purpose in life.
Thank you so much. And we're so glad that you've made this your passion and mission to just help and support so many other people, because that support is so needed, and these testimonies are important, and you sharing your experience is important. And it's wonderful that you have those 3 amazing children, and we're so thankful. But of course, that doesn't take away your experience. It doesn't take away the journey that you went through to get here. So it is important that is still shared, and that people still understand, that it was a whole process and a journey to get here.
It was definitely.
Yes. And thank you for also highlighting the fact that that God, made this happen. So I wonder, what role did faith play, in all that time, going through all that experience, having those losses, having strokes twice, all that time, what role did faith play?
Faith has played the major role in my journey. Because when I turned, let me see, I'm trying to figure out what age was I. I believe when I turned 25, again, I had been teaching for a couple of years. I had just graduated with my master's, and I believe I was enrolled in another program, trying to work on a doctorate degree during that time. And so I lost my faith, or I'm not gonna say I lost my faith, but I started to live life how I wanted to. So I stopped reading the Bible. I stopped praying, and I just became a part of the world, and all the worldly possessions, partying and going out to eat and just spending all this different money, and not, and just losing my relationship with God. So after I experienced the miscarriages and after I experienced my stroke, like I woke up. I woke up and I said, I felt like God was trying to get my attention. And I know that He loves me. I said He kept me here. So it was one night that I was in the bed after I had been released from the hospital after I had my stroke, that I said, I can't believe that I'm still here, because I believe I was looking on the internet and just doing my own research about my stroke. So I actually had an AVM rupture, which is the brain hemorrhage. So, me going online and conducting my own research, I discovered that a lot of people don't make it, or a lot of people become disabled. Right. And I literally went through physical therapy for like 3 months before I was able to walk again. So me getting through that situation let me know that God still loves me. God had forgiven me. And so I vowed that I was going to change my life around. And that's what I did. Once I moved back to Atlanta, like I said, I became focused on Simbi, but I also became focused on reestablishing my faith with God. And from that moment, I've been led by God in all that I do. Forgiving people for what they have done to me in the past, and just trying to live a more productive, passionate life where I'm able to help other people in the process. Even though my hands are full because I have 3 toddlers,
yeah,
my hands are full, but God has blessed me to be able to bless others. And so I'm living through God. And again, to answer your question, faith is my foundation right now of my life.
Well said, Simbi. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're the author of the book, The Power of Healing, which we noted earlier.
Right.
Why did you decide to write that book?
So
what was the inspiration?
That book. I decided to write my book, The Power of Healing, a memoir of loss and victory. That happened during the pandemic. And just being home with my, 3 little ones, and I was teaching virtually during that time. I don't know. Light bulb just went off one day. Like, how can I continue to, because all I was doing at that time was probably sharing bits and pieces of what I had been through via Facebook. That's pretty much it. But that light bulb went off where I had prayed, like, what else can I do, to spread the good news, to share my testimony, and just to become free. Because again, during the pandemic, we were stuck in the house, no social interactions, no connection with anyone. And the only thing I had was Facebook. And I like social media, but sometimes social media can become a distraction.
Yeah.
And it was just so much that I needed to focus on. So what I decided to do was I started writing one day. I had one of my coworkers who also wrote a book about her testimony with having a heart attack. I read her book during the pandemic. I started reading more. And so after I read her book, I was just so, I was just so intrigued. Like, you wrote a book about, you almost dying, like, and I started asking her questions like, what made you write your book? So hearing her story, hearing her testimony, and just seeing her faith with God motivated me to do the same. And I was able to see how she was able to touch people with her testimony and the love that she received and how free she was living. I wanted to live free too. I didn't want to be living in depression or living in embarrassment about what I had been through. So writing my book and publishing my book, which is self-published, it allowed me to be free. Free to share my story, free to be Simbi, without no worry of judgment or like I keep mentioning embarrassment, because I was really embarrassed and felt less than a woman because I wasn't able to carry my kids. Even though I had already become a mom, that little part, that negative thought in my mind still stayed there. So after I released my book, again, I'm free.
Yes.
Free to be Simbi. Like, everybody knows my story now. So what can you say? What can you do? I'm here to bless others through my story.
And owning your own story and your journey. That's amazing.
Owning it. Yes, Ola.
Yes. And it is such an amazing book because I did purchase mine as well on Amazon.
Okay.
And for anyone else listening and wondering where to get it, is it on Amazon, basically, or are there any other places where they can access it and purchase?
Yes, it's on Amazon. And thank you, Ola, for your support for
Yeah.
purchasing my book.
You're welcome. It's
You
a
can
lovely book.
also,
Thank you.
yes, they can also find my book on my website. So I have a website for my, for my author page, which is www.simbianimashaun.com. And I also, Ola, founded a nonprofit organization. So I was
Right.
just approved in March for
Ah,
tax exempt status. Yes. So my nonprofit organization is called United by Loss Foundation Incorporated. So listeners, you can also find or purchase my book on my nonprofit's website.
that's wonderful. And for anyone also wanting to reach out and connect with you, what is the best way to do that?
Best way is probably social media. Like I said, I try to limit the amount of time that I'm on social media, but I do go on there, to share resources. Like if you go to my nonprofit's Instagram page or Facebook page, you'll see that I've shared resources about doulas, resources about neonatal laws, perinatal laws, miscarriages. So I'm just trying to educate the community, educate other mothers and birth givers about different topics. So please follow me on Instagram, United by Loss Foundation, or my author page, which is author Simbi Animashaun. And again, I have both Facebook and Instagram. And again, I'm just sharing resources. I'm just trying to educate the community.
Thank you. And I'm also going to highlight all your links as well in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And of course, you've highlighted the fact that you're sharing your story, you want to share about your losses so other people know what happened and also how to perhaps prevent similar situations as well. So I just wonder, what would you like people to know about pregnancy losses? And for what do you wish people listening would know?
Yes. So one thing is we can't prevent it, unfortunately. We can't prevent pregnancy and infant loss. It's just, it's just out of our hands. However, what we can do is we can prepare for pregnancy and infant loss. And I've also, Ola, created a healing journal for mothers and birth givers who ever experience perinatal loss. So in that journal, yes, it's called, you can also find it on Amazon or my website. It's called This Too Shall Pass, Turning Pain into Power. And what I've done is created a healing journal where I provide 7 steps to help women with their grieving process. And
that's amazing.
After pregnancy and infant loss, the major thing that we have to focus on is, how are we going to grieve? Because it's difficult. It's a difficult process to go through, to experience. And we just have to prepare ourselves, because again, I've been pregnant 7 times, but I would have never expected that my pregnancies or 4 of them ended in, miscarriages or pregnancy loss. So now that I've experienced that, I just want to, share those gems of, how a woman can prepare for those pregnancy losses. So in the journal, I give women the opportunity to just write down everything that they're feeling. Because again, we may be scared to talk to family or friends or embarrassed, but just having a place or opportunity to just share your thoughts, I think is important. So that's why I've become a doula as well, is you need someone, you need a tribe. You can't grieve by yourself. Like I tried it, and it probably was the worst decision that I made. It definitely affected my mental health. So just going through perinatal loss or pregnancy, infant loss, just know that, it happens. And the best way to start your grieving process is to find a tribe. Don't compare yourself to others, because we're all different. All of our journeys are different. Believe in God, because again, I'm a living testimony. 4 miscarriages, and I've had a stroke, and I'm still here to tell my story. So I just want you all to know that, God has to find a say-so in every situation that occurs. And then the last thing is just to love yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Love yourself, and just try to stay positive through it all. Even though I know it's difficult to do, but our thoughts. I feel like our thoughts dictate our outcome. So now at this point, I'm just trying to live a more positive life and have more positive thoughts, and I can attest and say that it has changed my life.
Well said, Simbi. And I love the fact that you also highlighted the importance of grieving, and that, we're all different, because I think sometimes people want to rush the process.
Yes.
So like you said, it's important to go through it and feel what you feel. So it is amazing that you have that healing journal. I think that's really needed for a lot of people, because again, pregnancy losses are common. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. So there's a whole lot of people experiencing this all around us.
It's true.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And the healing journal can be purchased on Amazon, you said?
Yes, it can be purchased on Amazon. Again, it's called This Too Shall Pass, Turning Pain into Power.
I love the title. And if you could go back in time, Simbi, to perhaps 18-year-old or 21-year-old Simbi, what would you tell her?
18-year-old Simbi. What I would tell her is to never stop believing in God. And allow God to create your journey. I would have followed God's journey for me, not what I wanted to do. Yeah. And just continue to pray. Pray through everything. The highlights of life, the downfalls of life. Just pray through everything that you go through. That's what I would tell myself. Is God should be priority in everything that I do.
Love it. Thank you. And is there any quote or affirmation that you found really helpful in your journey as well?
Oh, yes. Actually, I don't know if you received your book and started reading your copy of your book, but for every chapter in my memoir or in my published book, I shared one of my favorite quotes. So I have a total of 10 chapters in my book, and I have 10 quotes from the Bible that has helped me get through everything that I have gone through. So one of the quotes for chapter 1, which was the beginning of what felt like a million losses, I will walk by faith even when I cannot, which is Corinthians, which is 2 Corinthians. And that's what I would tell other mothers and birth givers, is to walk by faith even when we cannot.
Yes, I love that. Because that's fully learning to trust and rely that God knows what's best, isn't it? Like,
right.
To rely on faith.
I have one more, Ola, that I want to share.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I have one more. So that was chapter 1. And then what I didn't share was that after I found out that I had a stroke, I had to have a non-invasive procedure called gamma knife radiosurgery, where the arteries in my brain were tangled. So they had to actually go in and burn those so that I would not have another avian rupture.
Oh, wow.
And that procedure, once you get to that part in the book, Ola, which is chapter 7, I was terrified. Even though I would, laugh through my pain, inside I was just lost. So for that particular chapter, I pulled a quote from Isaiah 81:10. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be frightened, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my saving right hand. Yeah. And after my procedure, again, I it was a confirmation that God loved me, that God had me here for a reason.
Yes. I love it. Thank you for those two wonderful quotes. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, and for anyone listening, that's amazing that she's got one for each episode, for each chapter rather. So yes, do get your own copy. And as a wrap up, Simbi, are there any words of encouragement? I mean, you've shared so much in this conversation, but I'll ask just in case you have another. As a wrap up, are there any words of encouragement or advice that you'll give to any person or couple trying to conceive?
Let's see. I think the most important, the most important thing is, again, and I know I've said it maybe 50 times, but just believe in God, you know, believe in God's journey for you. When I wanted to become a mom, that wasn't my time. God allowed me to become a mom when he felt like I was ready. So it's okay to try to get pregnant, you know, different ways that, you know, women, you know, try to become pregnant. But again, during those times, you know, just have faith in God. He will definitely allow you to become a mom when you're ready. And that's just how I feel. And that's my way of thinking. That's what I tell other mothers, is that when it's your time, it's your time.
Yes.
So keep believing.
Love it. Thank you so much, Simbi. It has really been amazing having you on the show, sharing your story, such a powerful story, and just some amazing testimonies on so many levels. The fact that you're here, sitting here today, sharing your story, reading a book, reading a healing journal, it's just, you know, just showing how much God loves you, like you said, right? And how much you still have, you know, the here sharing all of that. And it's so important that we hear your story and just be encouraged and inspired by it, because it's so powerful. So thank you so much for choosing to share, because, you know, you could have chosen to keep all this to yourself and just, you know, you have 3 wonderful children now. You could have chosen to just not say anything, because it takes a lot of strength. It takes, you know, so much bravery to come out and share your story. So thank you so much for sharing your story and for coming on the show today, and for all that you're doing to support so many others and wanting to use your experience to make things easier as much as it can be for other people. Thank you, Simbi.
You're welcome, Ola. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to share via your platform.
Thank you. And thanks for all that you're doing. And we look forward to having you again in the near future.
Absolutely. You have my contact information, so I would definitely love to come back.
Thank you.
All right. Be blessed, Ola.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Fertility Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Fertility Conversations. If there are any topics you would like to have discussed, please send an email to fertilityconversations@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you again for listening. Take care of yourself and do stay hopeful.